So thank you for your patience. Thank you for taking out this your Sunday to spend some time here this month. As we celebrate the 13th annual of National Violence Prevention for Black women for positive change. So I'm going to give you some more information, but I first want to start off with, because we're here at Church in Ocean Park, and this is where we also host the encouragement group as well. We have our Reverend Joseph Hepburn here. This is an interfaith community. All are welcome. Everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter if you are, I can give you a list. Anything that you are welcome. Anything that you're not, you're still welcome. You're welcome here. So that's the super short version. Any religion, any non-religion, you are welcome. You are welcome. And you are welcome to a place of dialogue. Okay, so that's how serious it is. So I'm going to start with Reverend Joseph so he can give us an acknowledgement as we begin today.
Thank you. We give thanks that we can all come together, and thanks for the freedom and for the honor of being alive and being here. We usually continue with our land acknowledgement. We believe, we, the people of the Church in Ocean Park, recognize that our building in Santa Monica, California, sits on stolen land. We, the settlers of this land, honor the Quiche, the Tongva, and Chumash peoples. We acknowledge the harms of genocide, enslavement, forced assimilation, and gender violence and indigenous suffering at the hands of U.S. colonial secularism. We also acknowledge that our communities and country were built on the backs of people stolen from Africa, placed into bondage, and forced into labor. We acknowledge that we benefit from that labor that has never been repaid. And so in acknowledgement, let us commit ourselves to healing by helping to create a more just and equitable world through the struggle of changing how we do things that we see as normal and that support the systems that oppress people. We apologize for the harm by pledging ourselves to be part of the culture of repair. We give thanks.
Thank you, Reverend Joseph. Thank you. Thank you for all. This gives you a space of where you are, that brings you into the community that you're in. As you can see, we welcome everyone and we acknowledge everyone who has been here before us, long, long before us, and how this country and this place was created. And people that we don't even know anymore, but we are all benefiting from them in some way whatsoever. So we want to start off, as you know, you're here today because we are representing, this is the 13th annual month of nonviolence. And so we are so grateful to be able to partner with Black Women for Positive Change, who are with the encouragement group, who are there are sponsors behind this. And so we welcome everyone to be here on this discussion for domestic and intimate violence. And we have such a great panel here. I mean, amazing. Those are my simple words. The bios are big time. But they're humble, and thank you so much for being here. And we also, lovingly, we couldn't be here, obviously, we say Church of the Ocean Park, but also we have Ms. Jan Perry as well, our former councilwoman, District 9 here as well. And so she was a large part of us having to be here as well. So thank you so much. I just also wanted to acknowledge Everytown for Gun Safety, Mediators Beyond Borders International, 100 Fathers, Inc., and National Black Nurses Association, who've all generously supported our mission to raise awareness about domestic and partner violence. Their commitment to this cause is invaluable together, and we're creating all a more safe and informed society and community. So thank you all for standing with us. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. And we're going to start off with, we're going to give you some information right now, a little bit about what this is about. And then we also are going to get a lot of DJ Jean-Pierre today as well. So we're going to start off with him. But we're first going to give you some information on who we are. Watch this video here, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for your time. Please, again, bathrooms are there, snacks are there. Okay, thank you.
Welcome to the Positive Change Hour. I'm Dr. Stephanie Myers, and I'm the National Co-Chair of Black Women for Positive Change. I'm here today representing our organization, and our other co-chair is Virginia Delegate Dawn S. Hester, who's not able to be with us this afternoon. But I'm pleased that my co-host for our show today, our program today, is Karen Carrington, who is the National Co-Chair of Media Relations and Merchandising for our network, Black Women for Positive Change. We're a volunteer organization, so you will see in this program, we will be interviewing two women in fact, who are going to talk about domestic violence and their personal experiences. But before we get into the interviews, Karen Carrington is going to go over some statistics to really make the point about how serious domestic violence is. We want to thank our participants today. We want to thank Harvard View Filmworks for providing services. We couldn't do this show without them, and we'd like to thank them very much. So Karen, please share with us, this whole problem of domestic violence is a really serious problem, isn't it?
It is an extremely serious problem. We'd like to provide you with some statistics and information regarding domestic violence. Violence of any kind is a serious public issue in the United States. From infants to elderly, it affects people in all stages of life. In 2010, over 16,250 people were victims of homicide, and over 38,000 took their own lives. The number of violent deaths tells only part of the story. 1 in 4 women, that's 22.3%, have been the victim of severe physical violence by an intimate partner, while 1 in 7 men, that's 14.0%, have experienced the same domestic violence.
Okay, so we wanted to give you some, as you know where you are, just give you just kind of a briefing of who Black Women for Positive Change is, and also the partnership with Dr. Stephanie Myers as well, who's not here, and she's on the East Coast. So that gives you a bit of information, kind of extend the face of how we're able to do this. So I'm going to actually pass the microphone over to Ms. Donna Brown, the co-founder, we'll just say a founder of the encouragement group.
All right. Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome here at the encouragement group at the church in Ocean Park. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. I am, as you know, I'm Donna Brown. I'm a mother and a grandmother and a survivor of the unimaginable. My son was taken from me by gun violence, homicide. So in honor of Cliff Jr., I founded the Encouragement Group, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting others affected by grief and loss and trauma. Through our support and our grief gathering and workshop, we raise awareness around issues like suicide prevention, trauma. Through our support, we get to create and heal communities. As a survivor speaker, I am committed to advocate for legislative change that prioritize wellness and violence prevention. My mission is to inspire healing and resilience for myself and others. And I invite all of you to join me in creating a safe and more compassionate world. We really need that. Again, thank you all for being a yes in a possibility of creating a safe world. Thank you very much.
All right, we're gonna start off with some music. So we have, and I'll introduce him officially in a little bit more, but he is, there's a lot to say about him as well. I'm gonna call him DJ Pierre for right now. I'm calling him MC Pierre right now. So we're gonna start off with some original music from MC DJ Jean-Pierre. And we got Nate up there. Let's give a shout out to Nate up there. Nate helping us out with the sound.
Definitely. Do a little intro real quick, if that way I want to connect everything today. So I come from an abusive background. I watched domestic violence happen. My father was an alcoholic and a drug addict who beat my mother constantly when I was a child. He would wake me and my younger brother up to witness this and show us this. So it's one of, I know there are many worse things to happen in the world, but for me, that is still one of the top worst things that I can think of, because it hurt me so much to watch that happen. And then to top it off, I had a old school Italian grandmother who physically, mentally, emotionally abused me most of my life. So the song I'm going to perform for you is called Stuck, and I think it really relates and connects to this, because I feel like when you are abused, and especially when it's a loved one, a family member, a romantic partner, you really, I think, feel stuck in those situations, because there's something that had you there in the first place. You know, your family, you feel like you obligated to be there. With a romantic partner, potentially, you may love that person, and that keeps you in these situations. So I created this song while I was being abused. My creative outlets are what saved me through everything I endured. So that's where this music comes from. And you're gonna see a big juxtaposition between the song I'm gonna perform at the beginning and then one I'm gonna perform for you later. But this song is called Stuck. Nate? And we'll get this started. I'm also gonna be on the panel today as well, so. There we go, yeah. Yo. You're stuck in a place where you can't get no help. You're stuck in a place where you can't get no help. You're stuck in a place where you can't get no help. So I guess you just have to look after yourself. I'm stuck in a place where I can't get no help, and the world seems to be getting closer to hell, where everyone always has something to sell. From the clothes that you wear to the way that you smell, and the things that they tell you that you should do. But this is your life, you should live for you. I'ma live mine too, that's what I have to do. Cause in the end, when you're down, no one's there for you. People talk about things they never dare to do, and look you in the eyes like they care for you. Turn around and run like someone scared would do. Plus they always got somebody to compare you to. Makes it really easy when they tear through you, and they lie to you, and they stab your back, and they tell you follow them so you can get off track. But I'ma tell you I will never get involved in that. I'm too smart for that, to let it take me down. This life is not a game, I don't play around. Even though I'm funny every then and now. Now and then, every rhyme my heart is in, and this music is what gives me the strength to win. Get up from the rut and start to live again. Cause from the beginning, you are stuck within. No in, I'm out, that's what I'm about. And it's what people promise that I doubt. It's just some words from mouth, it doesn't mean jack if you don't have the actions to back. And that type of BS is what straight gets you trapped. You're stuck in a place, you're stuck in a place, yeah. Yo, I'm stuck in a place, stuck in a place, stuck in a place. I'm stuck in a place, I'm just stuck, I'm stuck. So that's Stuck right there. We'll have another one for you later. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. I got a little preview of the next one. We're gonna do that at the end of the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. See, you got DJ Jean-Pierre. So, this evening, it's not gonna be your regular type of, thank you so much, panelists. Yeah, this is not gonna be, just like this is an unconventional church, you're gonna have an unconventional experience as you already have. You have a panelist and you get some live original music from our original LA, can I say LA-based artist? LA-based artist. So, and this is going to be, so we have our wonderful panelists here, but this is also going to be, as we do a presentation as well, this is also going to be also an open dialogue, and everyone's here to welcome. Everyone's here to share. You're welcome to share whatever you want to, as long as you feel safe about sharing what it is. And there's no judgment here. This is not about a judging place. So as long as everyone is open, I hope you're open to doing that. And when I say open, you don't mean like you don't have to talk, but open in that you're open with this format. That's what I mean when I say that. Okay? Pardon? Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, and yeah, I will say some parameters there. In respectability, as long as we're respecting one another, and we are also, being the best of ourselves with just standing in integrity as well. So we just want to make sure we do bring that to the space as well. That's extremely important. Thank you. Okay, so I am actually going to start off with. So as I was saying earlier, we have a brief introduction because every single person here has a pretty extensive and amazing background and bio, and so I'm so privileged for you to be here. Thank you so much. And so I am going to give a very briefing of who each of you are, and then you're of course welcome to share more. Okay? So we're going to start off with we had I called him DJ Pierre, but now we're going to call him, because he's got many hats and pretty interesting, Dr. Jean-Pierre, he's
Giagnoli.
Giagnoli. Dr. Jean-Pierre Giagnoli, he holds his PhD in
Parapsychology.
There we go. So parapsychology, thank you. With a focus in psychology and human behavior, he is, as you heard him say, he is an abuse survivor, a rapper, actor, comedian, and as you just heard, he is a DJ. Okay, so thank you so much. And we are gonna, Jean-Pierre is going to share his experience from growing up and being in a family and in an environment around that. And so we have him here to share that with us. And again, anyone here is open to share as well. I am also going to move to Miss, and again, you got I'm going to Miss Aretha Jones Adams. She does a wonderful long bio, and of course, you're welcome to share more. I'm just giving a few words. Miss Aretha, she is an associate of marriage and family therapy. She's been employed by the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health for 25 years, and she's a member of the New Life Baptist Church in Los Angeles. So there's much more that I can share. So yes. And of course, you're welcome to share more. I'm just going to give a briefing, of course. Okay, and we also have here Miss Tanisha Wright. Okay, we're up at the far end. Also a wonderful, long, extensive information bio here. And she is the Director of Bureau of Victim Services with the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, District DA Gascon's office. And Ms. Wright is also currently leading the efforts in the LA County to provide assistance and resources to families and victims involved in the monetary mass shootings that recently took place. She's a lover of all things nature, tea, traveling, improving access and health disparities, and understanding communities, and a mother of 2 and a dog mom. Miss Aretha, I actually have more to say about you too, so I'm going to get it to you as well. I just realized.
No, don't worry about it. It's okay.
I got some information on you too. And we all have here, last of course, not least, Mr. William Ortega. He's also served with the Los Angeles County for over 23 years, 20 of them with the LA County Department of Mental Health. His assignments have included 14 years on investigating deputy with the Public Guardian's Office and 5 years as a service area for adult full service partnership navigator. William is currently with the Office of Violence Prevention and serves as one of 2 gun violence restraining orders systems navigator for the Los Angeles County. Did I get that right? Perfect. Oh, perfect. Okay. So excuse me, I kind of chop up words. So, I'm a LA native, but we all have a lot of influences with us, so they all kind of mash up with me. Okay, so I'm going to actually start off with Jean-Pierre. I think we can just kind of open the conversation. As we know, domestic violence comes in many different forms. There isn't any one box for domestic violence, and there isn't any one box for even intimate violence. But I think if we can start off with just a personal perspective as someone who's been affected by violence, that would be, we're opening the space for you. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, I think coming into this, when Donna invited me, something I really thought about in particular was the abuse I received from my grandmother in my own home. It was very, narcissistic, controlling, physically abusive, mentally abusive, verbally abusive, all those things. And essentially what it did to me as a person is shut me down completely. I was not able to express myself. That's why music is an outlet, and comedy and everything that I do became an outlet, because I had no way to express myself in my home. So I found those ways to express myself. And so it shut me down in the home, where I felt I couldn't trust my own family, the place I was living. And then I was already sheltered as well, so that just made almost the world seem like a worse place. I grew up in a mainly Hispanic neighborhood in like Long Beach, Hawaiian Gardens area, and a name like Pierre, and I had like long hair, and my grandma would dress me more European style, so I got bullied and picked on at school too. So, and then my abuser even convinced me that the world hates you too. So it's like you literally don't trust anybody, so you completely shut down. And I think the biggest thing I thought about when coming here today to talk about this is that affected me in that setting, but then it also affected everything that came after that in my life.
And then if you don't mind me asking, and again, this is going to be a little, can you share more about what was actually happening in your household?
Oh, yeah,
specifically, what was happening, and how old you were, and when did you realize that you were, that this, something about this is not right?
Yeah, definitely. At a young age, I felt like I had a really good grasp on right and wrong. So if I start at the beginning, my father wasn't around. He left when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. And when he was around, he was an alcoholic, on drugs, and he would wake me and my younger brother up to make us watch him beat my mother. And he would say, "You treat women like this, you do this." And I knew that was wrong. I was crying watching my mom cry. And I felt helpless because, he's this 6 foot tall guy, and I'm just 4 years old. I didn't know what to do. So in that moment, I knew it was wrong. So I think I always had a good sense of right and wrong. But again, you feel helpless as a child. My father had left, and there was years in between, obviously, where he wasn't around. And my grandmother became kind of the father figure. And, she gave me a sense of responsibility. At 5, she was like, "You're the man of the house now. That's it." So I lost my childhood pretty quickly. Not only being sheltered, but being given the responsibility of being the man of the household at 5 years old. And there were times that kids in school would be like, "Oh, how come your dad never picks you up? How come," and you start feeling a certain way about that. So I would say "I wish I had a father figure or a dad around." And my grandmother immediately shut me down, very angrily, very aggressively. "You don't talk about him. He's a horrible person." And it shook me to my core. And realizing that later in life, that was the moment I shut down. Because I was just expressing how I felt. I didn't say I missed him. I said I missed having a presence of a male around and not having that, and seeing other kids with that and wanting that. That was a bad thing. And it was so I shouldn't feel in this house. So that was the moment I shut down. And then later on, as I got older, finally the sheltering kind of left a little bit, and I made some friends. I went out. I would go to other people's houses. I noticed their families weren't fighting and arguing like mine. So I'd come home and start saying, "Hey, this house, they have dinner together, and they don't scream and yell and call each other names and stuff." And that's when the physical abuse really started, because it's she realized that she was losing her grip on me, and I had saw the real world for once. So she physically started beating me anytime I would disobey her in any kind of way or do anything she didn't like. If it was my ambitious stuff, acting, whatever.
And excuse me, and then would you say, so I just want to kind of step back. When you say she, you're talking about your mother?
My
or you're
grandmother.
talking about your grandmother?
My grandmother, the abuser.
And was your grandmother also in the house where your father was? Was she in the house when this was happening?
No, so my mom lived in a different place than my grandmother. So my grandmother always had her own house, and my mom always had her own place as well. So she wasn't there present, but I did trust my grandmother up to that point, so I would tell her the stuff that would happen. It was later on that my grandmother became a lot more controlling and abusive. So she knew what happened, but she wasn't present for most of it.
So you experienced then both this feeling then, you experienced this as a child, seeing your parents having this type of interaction.
Yes.
You experienced that, and then once you're now living with your grandmother, you're also experiencing and also just a pretty heavy, if you can I say violent kind of response to, just just being in that environment as it is.
Yes, definitely.
And so you said you're about 5 years old. So at 5 years old, you physically, and you, if not, even if you didn't physically, you heard that type of things happening in your household.
Oh yeah, it was. I have a pretty good memory, and
Yeah.
my family concurred that this. I was about 3 when I started having memories of how physically bad my father was. Like, because he would start waking me up around that age and make me watch what was happening. So that went on for like 2 or 3 years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then my grandmother actually chased him away because she was so upset at what was happening that she finally was like, you need to get out of here. And like, she was a scary person, obviously, by the way I'm describing what happened to me. So she was scary enough to get rid of that, but also sadly maintain another type of fear in her home herself. So
That's interesting. You had the abuse, you had abuse in both households. That's
Yeah.
what yeah, that's what it sounds like. I'm just curious now if I can also, can I switch over to Miss Aretha right now? And I just wanted to just get kind of, get your clinical perspective as you heard, Jean-Pierre just share about, and again, this is what's happened in his household, and if you don't mind, just because we're sharing your story, is something that's has happened in many households or environments, and they can happen in different ways too, also with intimate partners as well. Obviously, it's not just one, it's not boxed in. So just hearing what he's sharing, I mean, just even psychologically, what that does to someone, and what would you say about that?
So I just want to say, first of all, I'm so sorry for your, what you went with. That's very difficult. And I have to say, before I speak on how domestic violence impacts the physical, the mental.
Thank you.
Sure. Growing up in a household, there were 2 parents in our household. It was hard for me to relate to domestic violence. There were 2 parents in the home, me and my twin sister, and 5 older brothers. There were 7 of us, and it was just really hard for me to relate to someone growing up, being abused, whether it was emotional, physical, mental. It was just hard for me to relate to that. And I'm not saying by any means that, it was a perfect household, but, we were not hit, and we were not, verbally abused. And so when I went to work for the Public Guardian's Office, the Department of Mental Health, my coworker here, former coworker, I was assigned to the children. For 17 years, I worked with the caseload. I was the public guardian for the children in Los Angeles County. And when I started working with them, I would go home every day in tears because I saw the abuse. These are children that were removed from the homes because of neglect, abuse, abandonment. But it was still hard to relate to what they were going through. The only thing that I could do was support them. I could support them and tell them how sorry I was. But domestic violence is real. It is real. And it does impact the mental. We always look at the physical. We look at the bruises and the bumps and the black eyes and things like that. And those things, the physical heals, but the mental, that just, it could last a lifetime, And I was just looking at when I was contacted by Donna, and I went back to my notes in school, my school notes, and the ways that domestic violence impact the mental, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Oftentimes people think that's a soldier, it's like a soldier disorder. The men go away to the army and they come back a little different, or the women, they serve the country and they come back a little different. But PTSD, it's trauma. That's what it is. It's trauma that impacts a person after the incident, after the trauma. Post-traumatic stress disorder, that sets in, and they have just that could take a life, I mean, it could go on for a lifetime. It could go on for a lifetime. You could go into treatment, but it could still be a problem. Depression, anxiety, these are things that impact the mental. So once again, we see the physical, we see the physical bruises, but we don't see a lifetime of hurt and pain and emotional distress, and how it could be very difficult to go into relationships. Sometimes this abuse is repeated because of the lasting mental impact that it has on the victims.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when we think of PTSD, I feel like when I first understood the term of PTSD, I would think of just soldiers,
Sure.
They're the ones that have the PTSD.
Right.
I have PTSD too, and I was never in the military.
Right.
So it's just interesting as we become, I think, more aware with even that term, that post-traumatic stress syndrome is very real, and it is not. Again, that's also not just in a box as well. There isn't any particular frame for what it looks like. Right. And so I wanted to also, thank you so much for sharing that. And again, we are going to have a back and forth too. So if you have anything that you want to share and you want to add, you're definitely welcome to do that. I did want to pass it over to Ms. Tanisha, and I wanted to know, because one of the things that we also, as you talk about children, that there are a lot of disparities too, and especially when it comes to certain communities, but not, no particular one is immune to domestic violence. We clearly know that there is no one that is immune to domestic violence, because it's not about a race thing, it's not about a gender thing, it's violence is violence in any form. But I did want to get some more information, and also if you can help with just maybe talking about certain communities that are affected by it who often don't even know what resources are even available in there. And so if you would mind sharing more about that and anything else you'd like to add, that'd be great. Thank you.
Definitely, thank you. So I'm Tanisha Wright. I'm the director of the Bureau of Victim Services for the LA County DA's office. Thank you to Ms. Donna for having me. And I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Ms. Chan Perry in the back. Way back in the early 2000s, I used to work for a nonprofit called Community Health Councils. And we had a lot of interaction with you, and you were a big support to our work. So I would be remiss if I didn't say hello. But with our work with the district attorney's office, so our office, so we have about anywhere from 25,000 to 30,000 victims that we service each and every single year. Out of that, there's about 600 witnesses that we also work with. And unfortunately, a handful of those 25,000 to 30,000 victims that we work with, half of them are cases of domestic violence. And this is something that is extremely prominent in Black and brown communities, unfortunately. And so how we service and work with victims, obviously, unfortunately, a crime will happen. My office will get what we call a referral. And we have advocates. I have about 60, we call them victim service advocates or representatives, that will go out into the community and will work directly with DV survivors and their families. Oftentimes, children are also involved. To Jean-Pierre's point, these kids see this stuff, that this stuff is happening, and the mental, emotional, and psychological impacts last a lifetime. We have victims that also witnessed this when they were children, and now they go on to become victims themselves. And so some of the resources that we immediately try to provide, the first thing we want to know is, are you safe? Are you living in a safe environment? And so every single week, our office is working with victims, whether it's male, female, or a child, to get them into safe housing and shelters, which we know is an issue and a problem in our community. There's not enough shelters. But we do have a robust list of shelters that we work with, that we try to hurry up and get victims housed as quickly and efficiently as we can. We're also giving them emergency vouchers for food and what we call them emergency shelters, emergency vouchers for hotels. And it's not sustainable, though. We can get a victim or their family placed in a house or a shelter or a hotel, but usually it's just a couple of weeks. So that's a humongous gap in services that we also know that exists within our systems. Additional services, mental health support. And when I say mental health support, I mean trauma-informed therapists, therapists that really understand the impacts of trauma. There are so many victims that we work with that have therapists, and all therapy is not created equal. As Madam said earlier, it's not just the physical. This is also something that's happening. Trauma is not just in the body, right? It's in our it's the whole mind, body, and spirit. And we want to work with therapists that are trauma informed and know exactly what that means. And sometimes they also do further harm by not being trauma informed. So we have a list of mental health resources and therapists that we know are trauma informed all across LA County. So as we're working with victims, we're trying to get them in housing, we're trying to get them food and clothing if needed, and then also mental health services and restraining orders and things like that. And I'm sure you're going to get into that later, so I'm just going to stop right there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I just wanted to also extend, even whether as you're here, and even if you feel like, you're not someone who's experienced this or has experiences, I just hope that you also take the information, because you just never know. You can be having a conversation with someone, and you never know what it is that you're sharing or what they're listening to, and you can provide resources. And it's so great to know that not only that we not only have that within our city, but that we have laws in place. And this is something that we want to bring awareness to, so that we want to be a resource here. We're giving the resources here so that you can pass and share this with someone. And at the end, I will want to, provide how we can get in contact and how anyone can get in contact with any of the services here. And if they just have any questions, whether for themselves or whomever, and just to have the information, because information is knowledge. So I just want to acknowledge that. So I'm now going to pass it to Mr. William. And so, hi, and if you can just go ahead and share, as we were talking about, just the laws, red flag laws, and what we can do to better equip ourselves and equip our friends and loved ones and strangers.
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I was going to do a PowerPoint presentation, but I think that might be just a little too small for everybody to see, so I'm just going to verbally, I think,
Okay,
tell
sure.
everybody. Is that okay?
Okay.
So basically, my name is William Ortega. I am one of two gun violence restraining order systems navigator. I was hired under the Office of Violence Prevention as a result of the Board of Supervisors passing a motion detailing our gun violence prevention platform. This was passed in result to the mass shootings that occurred in Uvalde, and trying to ensure that the community is aware of it's a tool that's available but not often used, okay? It's called a gun violence restraining order. In California, that's what it's known as. In the federal government, other states, it's known as red flag laws or emergency restraining orders. Bottom line, what it does is it allows the removal of firearm and ammunition from the home when an individual is going through specific type of symptomology. You can see that they are talking to themselves. Maybe they're just expressing more sadness. They're isolated, withdrawn, start posting on social media. They start talking about, suicide. They start giving away some of their personal effects. Even something as starting to buy body armor. That's one of the things that people often miss, but it is something that can cause, an unfortunate incident. In the rest of the United States, there are only 21 states that actually have these red flag laws. As we saw in the most recent shooting in Georgia. Georgia is one of those states that does not have a red flag law. One can, kind of speculate, had that been the case, perhaps that may have been a deterrent. Unfortunately, we'll never know because we saw what happened. So it is my job to offer trainings, workshops, and along with my other colleague, we actually go out into the community and we actually walk individuals through the legal process of how to secure a gun violence restraining order, okay? It is one of, like I said, two of our main points for our gun violence prevention platform, the other one being distributing free gun locks. We all know that unfortunately a large number of the victims of this type of violence are kids. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to do our part to ensure that those guns are safely locked and stored away. California should be secured, because that is the law, but for whatever reason they don't have them in a safe, at least a gun lock might be able to deter and prevent an additional act of violence from occurring. I do have some information in the back, so I strongly encourage everybody to please come talk to me. I will give you a lot of information on gun violence restraining orders. I encourage you to scan the QR code for the Office of Violence Prevention, because we have a plethora of resources, suicide prevention, trauma care, children's prevention methods. We have a plethora of resources. And so I encourage you to please scan the QR code, as well as I am giving away free gun locks. If you need one, please, all I need is your zip code, and you're more than happy to have one. Any other questions? Please feel free to talk to me after the presentation, and I thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's wonderful that we know we've got this information and we know there's resources there, and we know that we have laws in place, and I think it'd be great if we can extend these laws so that all 50 states will have the red flag laws. And that's just my personal opinion, and I won't, I'll try to keep that kind of stuff limited, but that would be great. I wanted to go on the other end of this, if I can, Jean-Pierre, as you just go back to the abuse and just kind of go on the other end of it, because now you're not a child anymore, but now you're an adult. And I'd be curious to hear if you could share a little bit about your path of overcoming that. Let's look at the other end of this.
Yeah, definitely, of course. I guess I can start off with the point I was kind of going to get to the first time, because I think it really goes straight into this. Something that I realized is that that abuse and that behavior and that environment was so normal to me that when I encountered it in any other place, it was normal. It wasn't, there's nothing wrong here. You just have to go along with it, because this is how it is. So I want to say I'm 40 years old now. When I was 35, I realized I was abused. I didn't conceptualize abuse because it was normal for that long in my life. My wife, who's here today, gave me some insight, being an outsider, and saying, your family is not treating you right. And I'm like, well, it's just my family. That's how it is, And then her perspective and some other outside perspectives really got me thinking about it. And some of the worst abuse that happened that she actually saw, what got me actually to move out completely and leave. And that was a huge step for me, because my abuser convinced me that the world was a horrible place and I would never survive on my own, and only she could protect me and help me and take care of me. And then I got out there, and I had already been prepared my whole life pretty much since I was 5 to take care of myself. Everything was just normal to pay bills and survive and work and all. It was easier for me, I think, than most people who went out on their own. And I was maybe in my early 20s when that occurred. And again, still years, I stayed connected with my family, so that abuse continued from a distance, or even when I went to visit. So there was still fighting, bad words, all that kind of stuff. 2018, I made some big changes. This is around the time I met Donna, actually. And I took the Landmark Forum, and that really got me to see some things that I'd never seen and really go introspective and look deeply about myself. And, we all know what we want, but it's hard to actually go after it most of the time, because we don't know the things that are stopping us from doing it. So for me, it was knowing that my passions drove me, but I never pursued them, and that's what I wanted to do. So I did, and meeting Donna, in that time of my life, I had an epiphany, and I realized that moment that I shut down when my grandmother had said, that man's horrible, don't talk about him, don't ever say that name. That was the point I shut down. So when I realized that was the point, I realized that doesn't have to be my whole life. And so I decided I need to cut my family off completely, really cut them off, set a boundary, and say, no, I won't allow myself to be treated poorly or put down or told I'm bad or wrong or anything. And I did it peacefully, though. I didn't do it with anger. I said, I wish you love, happiness, joy, and everything in your life, but I need to find that. And I need to go on my own to find that. And so I think it's powerful to also break that cycle by not being negative and creating a positive energy around you too, and only allow that in your life. So that was really the starting point. I quit my job in 2018 to do acting full time, got into that. I'm still, pursuing my other pursuits as well, and very happy. I've sustained myself in my life since then. and I'm very happy for that too. And unfortunately, COVID took a devastating toll on my family. My mother passed in 2021. A few months later, my grandmother passed. I was away from them for about 1.5 years, and that it was an incredible amount of time. I actually healed. I used to bury my vocals in my music because I hated the sound of my voice. My grandmother convinced me everything about me was hateable. So I remember crying when I was making Donna's favorite song, actually. When I was recording that, I let my vocals come forward, and I made myself cry because I said, wow, I'm good. Like, this is powerful. Like, this is incredible. And that 1.5 years allowed me to, and my wife's family helped me out tremendously during that time, giving me a safe space to be. And yeah, that's when everything changed. I got a call, hey, your family's in the hospital with COVID. Will you come back and help them? And I said, yeah, because I wanted to break the cycle of abuse and change that. So that's kind of a brief overview of me changing my life and wanting to show love and compassion where there was none. So that's kind of my progression, and I try to live a positive life now. And the song I'll play at the end, you'll hear the difference from the first song I played to the next song I'm going to perform.
Thank you. Wow, that's a powerful story, and thank you so much for sharing that. I just wanted to acknowledge Jean-Pierre for sharing that. Thank you. I wanted to also, I am going to open the microphones to anyone in the audience or anyone in the space. If you'd like to share, if you'd like to ask any questions, and if you want to raise your hand or just put your finger up or put your thumb up, that's fine. And if not, that's also okay as well. So, do we have anyone? Okay, great. I'm just going to pass the microphone to you. John, I'll just pass the microphone to you so that everyone can hear equally.
Thank you, Jan, for inviting me. And thank you, Donna, for this space you've created. My name is Mandar. I live in India these days, but I've lived in the US 25 years before this. I had the honor of taking the Sandy Hook parents along with former gang members from LA on a journey to India for 10 days and made a film. I do work with LAOVP, and whatever you just shared, I honor you for the work that you're doing. It was healing for me to know that such people exist. And I would love to know how you are taking care of the caregivers, because that is the work that I have now committed myself to. That's not an easy job.
Right.
So it is not just PTSD, but secondary post-trauma.
Yeah.
Listening to somebody's stories, just listening to JP's stories, it created a pause in my heart, like, shit.
I know.
So,
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Thank you. And thank you for sharing. Please, I think that was a great question. Yes, if you wouldn't mind sharing, how does a caregiver take care of themselves, especially someone who's experienced that? Whoever would like to share. And even take care of yours. You can even start with, how do you take care of yourself? Because all of you guys are doing it.
Wine and cheese.
I'm not going to knock that.
But in all seriousness, I'm sorry if anybody's going to frown. Just
Go ahead.
okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Coming from the Office of Violence Prevention, right, one of the things that we focus on is self-preservation, preventive measures. I am not a clinician, okay? I am not an attorney, but based on my experience with dealing, as Ms. Adams indicated, we worked together a long time. Yeah. She held the children's side. I did all my forensic investigations. Mm-hmm. So I saw everything from murderers, child molesters, sexual violent predators, the gamut. And what we did at the Public Guardian's Office is we were assigned as deputy conservators over the individuals when they were deemed gravely disabled, inability to secure food, shelter, clothing due to a mental illness. And I often dealt with caregivers. And one of the things that I would always emphasize on them is self-care. Mm-hmm. And this meant just taking something as 30 minutes, 1 hour, sometimes even 15, and just decompressing, and just by being able to literally just go blank, if you will. Just go blank, take a deep breath, but also find a hobby. Find something that just says, okay, I really enjoy doing this, and when I do this, it really stops me from thinking about everything else. At that time, I don't mind sharing with you, it was very stressful, as Miss Adams know. I mean, I was over 167 individuals that were in jails, forensic facilities, state hospitals. And yeah. Yes, and court deputy. And testifying and all this good stuff. Wine was a soother. It really was. But again, I didn't abuse it. But again, also going to the gym really helped me. And when I tell when I would have the caregivers that would end up taking care of these older individuals, same situation. Find something that will take you away from the whole scenario. I know it's not always easy, but as the saying goes, if you don't take care of yourself, who will? And if you want to, because there's a lot of people that are caregivers and they really love what they do. I commend them. I don't think I could do it, but I really admire those individuals that can do that. And if they're really passionate what they're doing, then they definitely have to be able to take care of themselves so they can take care of others. Sorry about that, go ahead.
No, you're
Thank you.
fine.
Thank you
for
so
that.
much. Thank you.
That was very
All right,
helpful.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I'll just kind of add to that. So for me, I have 130 staff that do report to me. And these are all individuals that most of them have lived experiences. They're not all therapists. I do have a therapy background, but most of my staff are all victims themselves. And so our office, we definitely prioritize self-care as much as we can. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about our current DA while he put me in this position, because usually, or typically, or historically, all of the directors of victim services have been attorneys. And so under this current administration, he wanted to put someone with a community and a public health and a psychology background. And he prioritizes trauma and trauma-informed care because we know in this field of victim services, vicarious trauma and secondary trauma is a real thing. If we're hearing about everyone else's experiences and their levels of abuse, as compassionate as we are, there is this thing called burnout and compassion fatigue. And you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You have to take care of yourself. And so one of the things that I've done in the past couple of years is, and it hasn't been done before, is create retreats for our staff. And it's kind of hard with county money, because in county we don't have no money. But so it's like I've had to get really creative about getting people out of the office and outside, taking them out to parks and having, an ideal world to be a weekend-long retreat, but at least a day retreat where they can just sit and breathe and meditate and learn best practices. In fact, I just had a retreat for 20 of my supervisors 2 weeks ago at a park up in San Dimas. So we do try to prioritize self-care. We have people that come in that for free that teach the entire DA's office actually how to do meditation every single Wednesday from 12 to 12:30. We have someone who's trained in that. So anytime we can have an event, have a retreat, get our staff trained in compassion fatigue and burnout, which we did this year as well, those are the ways that we take care of ourselves. And for me personally, as she mentioned earlier, I am a dog mom, so I get out, I walk my dog, I do yoga and meditation. Those are things that kind of keep me safe and grounded. I also have 2 grown adult children that are both female, and those are you out that have daughters, you understand the stress of raising, beautiful daughters. So for me, I try my best to take care of myself as much as I can and my staff.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I love the answers that you guys gave. I'm taking notes for myself as well. I really am, and I feel like it's such a great question that you could ask, because I feel like all of us, we compassion, fatigue, and us caring for others can take a toll, and who's taking care of ourselves and how are we taking care of ourselves as well, especially if violence has impacted your life in some way or the other. And even if it isn't, we are all living in this together, and I just think it's so important that we have those resources. We know what to do. I love that. Is there anything else? Would anyone else like to share anything, or they have any questions? Yes, okay, great. I'll start with the woman here, and then if you wouldn't mind talking in the microphone, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pastor Cheryl Nash. Thank you, Donna, for inviting me. I was very blessed by what everyone has said. I am a victim as well. I married a man who became addicted to crack cocaine, and I lived with him for 5 years. And but my question is there room for spirit? I heard you mention spiritual. Is there room for spiritual change in people's lives? Because I teach on biblical principles about how God can heal you, how God can change your life, because this is what I experienced. So I have developed a program called Snatch It Back, Recover It All. Even though we can't recover everything, there's things that we can recover, like your sanity. You know, there's things that happen when you go through all this trauma. I've had to file a police report on my husband as restraining order. I've gone through a lot of the things that you've been talking about, and I watched God completely change my life, change my husband's life. My husband, the Lord told me to pray for him and really meditate, do a lot of meditation, and there's scriptures in the Bible that support, you know, our belief system, and I watched God totally change my husband's life, and I know that Donna can relate to this, and the atmosphere being in a church. You know, my question is there room for this type of program? Because I am interested in finding women that I can help as well.
Thank you. Is that for me or for the whole? I didn't know who you were looking at.
I think it's for you.
Oh, okay, yes, absolutely. Definitely. I think we can probably all speak to it. But I would definitely say yes. The spiritual aspect of healing, I mean, we can't ignore, we have to incorporate spiritual if we're going to talk about mental and physical. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing your story. One of the things that I plan to do as I'm still in this role within the district attorney's office, so domestic violence is something that is extremely near and dear to my heart as a survivor myself here on this panel, is expanding our services into more holistic healing approaches. Obviously, in an ideal world, it's something that would happen overnight, but this is a new change that we're trying to integrate. And so it is my goal to have more holistic and integrative healing modalities for victims outside of the basic services that we provide. I mean, the services we provide are important, the mental health, you know, the emergency housing, et cetera, but real, true healing, as we talked about, it's not just intellectual and in the mind, it's everything. And so I am very much open to, you know, connecting to see what does that look like, and then bringing that, of course, to the powers that be, and seeing what other, because I had someone also ask me about specific meditations for victims. So I think that this is a great time and an opportunity to start talking about those services and programs for victims.
Yes, and I was going to add, thank you so much. And I also wanted to add Miss Aretha as well. She can also speak as well to that, because you also have, you can talk more about the ministry aspect of what in the work that you do as well. I think that would be a great way to tie that in. Thank you so much, Ms. Tanisha. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to let me share about my my ministry. So she read in the bio that I have worked for the Department of Mental Health for 26 years. But because of my passion for the field, I started a ministry. And the ministry is Sound Mind 1/3 Ministries. And it's based on the scripture, for God had not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And so that's the first part of it. And I added 1/3 because I wanted to show the significance of the mental. The mental is 1/3 of our being. It's 1/3 of who we are, and oftentimes it's forgotten, it's not talked about, and there's such a stigma attached to mental illness. But my ministry, and I agree with what you said, when you start talking about healing, it's the whole person. It's not just mental, it's not just physical, but spiritual has to be incorporated in that. We're three-part beings. So we can't say, okay, I want to heal and I want to be made whole. And it's, I'm just dwelling on the physical and the mental. It's about spirituality as well. And I always think, as a Christian, I am a Christian, and I always say I'm not sure what I would do without spirituality, without Christ in my life. And I'm not trying to throw my religion around, because people, they may have different beliefs and things of that nature. But in answer to your question, he kept saying, I want you to say something. I want you to say something. I study the Bible. I study scriptures every morning. I study scriptures, and I'll take a scripture and read it, and then I meditate on that scripture. There are different types of meditations, like Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And I just meditate on that. Shall not want. What does that really mean? And I think about the goodness of God, and that's what keeps me going. I journal as well, and people don't realize the significance in journaling. It really, it declutters your mind, and it helps you to organize things and goals and things of that nature. So I just think that, as we are caretakers, we may not have we may not be family caregivers, I say caretakers, caregivers. But we do have to have an outlet. Working for the Department of Mental Health, it can become very stressful. What we deal with, the clients and the work, very stressful. And self-care is very important. So for me, studying the Bible and journaling and guided imagery, Donna, guided imagery. I don't know, have you guys ever tried guided imagery? Well, with Donna, she leads in that. That's wonderful. And lastly, I want to say, laughter is the best medicine. Sometimes I just sit and laugh. I think of things funny, and I just laugh. The Bible says, do you guys know the scripture about that? I'm paraphrasing it, but laughter is like a medicine. It's like a medicine, and it's healing. And you should read the stories about individuals that said that they had cancer, and they were healed because of they gave credit to the laughter. So I just wanted to share that. It's so nice to be with you, and it's nice to see your faces in person, because I always see you guys on Zoom. So it's nice to see you in person. God bless you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you so much for also just opening up. I love that the offices, and you're looking at this perspective of just the holistic approach. I think that is so important. I think we can transcend that to our public offices. That would be great. That it's not just specifically here in the church, synagogue, or any organized religion per se. But I think that if we can look at that in our public offices, that would be great. That's what we need. Mm-hmm. So thank you. I'm going to actually pass it over to you, Ms. Barbara. I see you had a question as well, so I'm going to go back to you.
I do have a question. It's on behalf of someone who couldn't be here, who's experienced stalking. And she had dated this person and then realized this is not going to work. He seemed very kind. And after she broke it off, he broke into her house, he stole her car, he chopped her car into 1,000,000 pieces and dumped it in the LA River. And I think it's been 2 years. She opened her drapes one day, and there he was. Her son says you have to move, give 30 days notice. She loves where she was living. And she's very, in a box about moving for herself. She's there for work and there for family, but to handle taking care of herself, she's overwhelmed. Now, this is a crime, is it not?
Yes, are you asking me or oh, yes.
The reason I'm asking that, the reason I'm asking that is she says, you know, I think because she dated him, she thinks it's a gray area. It's
No.
not a gray area.
No, absolutely not. I will say stalking, for one, is definitely a crime. We actually had a very specific training for our advocates 2 years ago to train them specifically on how to work with stalking victims. I think the problem is there still needs to be improvement within just how law enforcement works with victims of stalking. They have to see certain things in order for them to really be able to actually file a case. And we get, at least on a weekly basis within the DA's office, I get at least 4 to 5 women and men that reach out to me because they're victims of stalking. So this is a real thing, and it's actually a very real crime. And I'm glad that whoever asked her or told her that she needs to move, it's so true, because and there's been so many handful of cases where we love where we live, but unfortunately I've seen people's lives taken away because sometimes a restraining order, a lot of the times, is not enough when it comes to dealing with somebody who's stalking you. And I've seen the cases. I've seen the lives that are lost because a person filed a restraining order, but they didn't move, and that person still lost their life because this person was right in front of her door. Like you said, when she opened up her curtains, there he was. No, it's a crime. And the people that are in the field of stalking that are leading policy change, they've had to kind of take matters in their own hands. And what I mean by that is if someone is stalking, they have to really be in touch with law enforcement consistently and advocating to get law enforcement to do something. The problem from what I've seen in this specific position is that it's just, I don't want to say it's not taken as seriously, but for law enforcement to actually do something, there has to be so many things that are in place, and it's such an unfortunate thing for victims of stalking. But to answer your question, it is very much a crime.
Well, and I'm experiencing secondary trauma just hearing this, you know, her story and worrying about her.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what happens sometimes is that the public does not know the correct resources, right, to also use. Restraining orders. It's a piece of paper, right? But there are 7 different restraining orders that are available. The gun violence restraining order, unlike the others, is not a stay-away order. It doesn't tell the individual that there has to be no contact between the victim and the perpetrator. Gun violence restraining order is strictly for the removal of firearms ammunition. However, because we see that the public doesn't always have the legal awareness, does not understand the legal process to file certain things, that is where my job comes in. The Board of Supervisors told LA County Office of Public Health, developed the Office of Violence Prevention, and specifically mandated 2 GVRO system navigators so that we can actually go out into the community and educate and handhold them through the legal process. Because the legal process is very complex. If you don't know the right paperwork to file, the legal jargon, it can definitely deter individuals from proceeding.
I mean, I think also she feels that because there's probably mental health issues involved, it makes it gray also, but it's like...
But that's what I mean. For example, mental health is another aspect. The DA has a mental health section. You start off with a 5150, right? Let's see if that individual does meet criteria for a 5150, grave disability. You're talking about, stalking, definitely threats, PC 422, criminal threats, right? So there's just unfortunately, it just seems that, first of all, every case is a case-by-case basis, but then there's just also that lack of knowledge that what we're trying to do is change.
And she can definitely reach out to our office. I don't know what city she lives in, but we do have individuals within our office that can at least assist, if she needs temporary housing or just any information or resources, we can assist with that.
Well, that's good to know. Do you think that there might have been some direction here? I mean, just to know that we do have resources and their phone numbers that you can probably share with her as well. Does this information, just to hear this information, does it sound helpful that there are resources, there's even just a direction to lead her in? Does it sound like it? Because it sounds like, obviously, it's great that the DA's office has this, and so maybe just her having that information, you getting that information and sharing that with her, at least leads her in the direction of some type of safety and security, and I think that's what, you've got to take the first steps have to be taken, and it sounds like these, at least there is steps for that, there's resources for that.
Correct.
So that's a good thing. And I think also, I just wanted to just note, because something that you did share is that also this is the trauma that you experience, hearing it. And the mental health, I mean, just the mental health of that, just even being at the impact of that in itself. So, I'm not anything of the clinical in any way. I'm just here speaking as a survivor also of violence, right? But I would implore you to also, take care of yourself, of course, and, let's, the resources that are available as well, to do that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Okay, I'll pass it over to you.
Just a quick question. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for all of your work in the community and to support love and abundance in the world and health, because it's so important. Is any of this, the resources that you guys are all speaking to, is there like an access point that is the ease? Like I heard of 311. Are any of those kinds of memorable numbers or services that kind of pool everything into one place? Is there something like that that people can take away from a meeting like this and share with others to have the most access to resources that you guys all provide?
Yeah, 988. And
Great,
I
thank
do
you.
have an 800 number for like domestic violence, and it's really easy. It's 800-799-SAFE.
Yeah, that number, I was going to share that too.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
no, thank you. Let's start off with just a couple, I just want to repeat that number you first said, the
988.
988. Let's just, if you want to just even put that in your phone to share that with anyone, and have it maybe even as a contact in your phone, 988.
It's been expanded before when it just rolled out. It was specifically for suicide prevention.
Right.
But as we see that the needs of the community are bigger, LA County decided to expand, and now it
great.
includes questions of something as simple as where's the closest shelter, or where is the closest DPSS office. Right. So 988 has definitely expanded.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, we can add that in as well and into our phone contacts. And also, and I just want, that's a national number? Is that national 988, or is that only for California?
It's only for LA County that I understand.
It's only for LA County, okay.
And I'll also add too, we do have a whole public interfacing website, and if for someone that's also experiencing stalking, we have an 800 number as well that I don't know if I should email it to Donna so she can get it out to the
Yes,
group. Or
if you have the number offhand right now while we're here too, if you have it, and if not, you can get it out as well. And also, Ms. Aretha, again, so I wanted to add where we talked about the domestic violence hotline, if you can share a little bit of, let's say the number again, and then also, and that is a national number, if we just talk about domestic violence, and it's just great to have these contacts information in your phone as a contact, for you never know.
Right, so it's 800-799-SAFE, or, excuse me, 799-7233. 800-799-7233.
And that is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And when you call them, you can also, it's open 24 hours.
Yes.
It's available to anyone nationwide. And I think anyone that can actually get access to making a phone call as it is. You can be in Puerto Rico, and you can still you can make that call. And once you call them, they will give you resources to your local communities as well. So it's not just isolated, just only here in California. So that's what's so wonderful about that line as well. So that's great to know. And then we have another number as well. When you're ready to share, Ms. Tanisha.
So for Bureau of Victim Services, the 800 number is 800-333-0000. 380-3811. And you can always call that number and you will get connected to an advocate that can assist with any services that we provide. They know as soon as you answer. As soon as you call, they'll answer and ask what resources do you need, and then that person will triage and send it directly to the appropriate person. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
May I do my little plug?
Yes,
as well?
absolutely. Go ahead.
Since we're giving out numbers, I would like to encourage you also to reach out to the Office of Violence Prevention.
Yes.
Like I indicated, we have a plethora of resources, anywhere from trauma preventive care, suicide prevention. We have children's programs, gun violence restraining orders, free gun locks. So I encourage you to please call 626-293-2610, or you can always email us at OVP, Offensive Violence Prevention, at phpublichealth.lacounty.gov. And all of the information that you see on our website is available in up to 9 different languages at this point. So I strongly encourage you to please reach out if you need any additional resources.
Thank you. Thank you. And do we have any other questions? Any comments? Okay. Yes. Here we go. Thank you.
Just a comment. I think of you all who have survived these horrific situations and taken it and used it, transformed it into helping others. And I just find that so amazing and beautiful. Also, I have a question. You know, sometimes a person is abused emotionally, physically, or whatever, and then they go and take their stuff and put it out onto others and project onto others. And how, say you, Jean-Pierre, or anybody else in this room, I'd like to know, if you did do that, how did you stop yourself?
Interesting.
I mean, I'll
Yes,
start
you
out
can-
for me personally. For me, I think I said it earlier. I feel I've always had a pretty good grip on what's right and wrong, what I felt was good, what I felt was bad. So for me, it was I never wanted to be the way I saw my family being to each other, and the stuff I saw and the stuff that was done. The first example I saw was my father. I said I will never lay my hands on a woman because of what I saw my father do to my mom. I couldn't imagine creating pain for someone I supposedly loved in that way. And even if I didn't love them, I wouldn't want to cause them that kind of pain. But yeah, that for me, it was always fighting what I saw, taking the good in those situations, not the violence or anything, but people have good qualities too, even if they're horrible people. You can take good things from it. My grandmother taught me a lot of smart things on how to be an adult in life, and I took those things to heart and I kept those close. And I said, I'll keep that, but abusing people, controlling people, manipulating people, whatever they did, those are the things I threw away. And I have a younger brother. Unfortunately, when we separated from the family, he took the other road. He got with a toxic partner and became very abusive towards everybody. So, I mean, I think we have a road to choose, and it's all up to us at the end of it. I think it's what we desire most. For me, I wanted peace. I wanted calm and happiness, and that comes, you have to take a specific road to get there. So I think a lot of it is, choosing the direction we go.
Thank you. Yeah. And I just wanted to add, as we get ready to wrap to that, is that obviously, we're affected. I've been affected by gun violence, I've been affected by a lot of different types of violence, if I'm really completely transparent. But just to kind of add an answer to that, and just kind of to get ready to wrap up, a part of being affected by it, having these kind of workshops and this type of dialogue, sharing, providing resources, sharing stories, wonderful people being able to come into our lives and leave such a huge impact. It has made a huge difference And it is a part of the journey, and we are all connected in some type of way. We're having this workshop today about thinking about domestic violence and intimate partner, but as you know, we've talked about there are many colors of violence, right? And being at the impact, my brother was murdered. I don't know who this person is that murdered my brother, but clearly that's a person that has also been impacted by violence as well. And whatever their life is, they have been impacted. Who knows what kind of intervention could have happened in their life? Had there been some intervention in their life, and whoever in all's life connected to that, it probably would have never had the impact upon my brother's life and the other young gentleman in his life as well, then had that impact upon my life, our life, But I do believe there's a responsibility there. And so, I think it's important. And that's what we've done, tried to turn our pain into power. Even sometimes it might feel kind of powerless, because it's like, where's the justice? Why isn't this person come to justice? Why isn't no one saying anything? Yeah. And that's a whole nother world as well. But if there's any control that I can have in it or take control, this is how I can take control of it and how I can turn that pain into power. And so I wanted to turn and say, thank you. We have this space here to Church in Ocean Park. Miss Reverend Janet is not here right now, but having that conversation with her to be able to have that space in this church. Again, this is an interfaith too, but it's an interfaith church. Everyone and all is welcome. I'm so grateful for that. Also at the time, and I am going to acknowledge again, Miss Jan Perry, because when my brother was murdered, right? He was murdered. Immediately, the first person that jumped into action was Miss Jan Perry, and Councilwoman. And it wasn't just, let me just give you a phone call. It was showing up, and she showed up. Didn't even know her at that. She showed up, and just the hug of like, I'm here. That meant so much. That had such a huge impact on us. And we also showed up at the service as well. And that had such a huge impact on us. So, there's so many words behind that. And so, I want to say, of course, herself and the many people, Joseph, Reverend Joseph. Yes, exactly. Being a part of Church in Ocean Park, but even on a personal level, and the wonderful people that we met along the way. Miss Dolores, we have met, and also Brian, Miss Barbara, Bonnie, many people we've met along the way who've had their own journey too, and we all don't know our journey, but it's just important that we acknowledge and we're able to become a community. So I also just definitely want to just wrap this up. I'm thanking Black Women for Positive Change Foundation, because they are, this is the 13th annual month of nonviolence, and this is national, month of nonviolence. This is the month, October. There's so many things that we can acknowledge and celebrate. Of course, this is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month too. There's just so many things, and all the horrible things that are happening. It's interesting, there can be light in the darkness, as interesting as it might sound. It can be, and I know that sounds crazy, but it can be. So I feel like, we're all representation of that in our own way. We all represent that. We all represent that. So thank you for everyone that took the time out to be here, and thank you for, just opening up your hearts, your minds. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. It's deeply appreciated, and I'm going to also give a big up, sorry, background. Big up to my mother, Donna. Yeah, because, your dedication, your passion, your journey, what I do know, even what I don't know, and the face that you are able to just stand up to adversity, and get up every day and move forward despite it all. I do honor you. Okay. So thank you. And it takes the community. So without further ado, I'm going to say any last words? Any last words? Not? Ms. Jamperry, any last words too? Do I have? We're an international organization. I'm going to have to give the microphone. I need to get the microphone to you. I know. I'm going to get you, Ms. Dolores.
Thank you, and thank you, Ayana and Donna, very much for just allowing me to be a part of your lives and to be able to follow you and walk with you in your journey. So thank you. And I've been a member of Black Women for Positive Change for over a decade. And so I talked to Dr. Myers, even though she's in Virginia constantly, but we are an international organization and have participants as far away as Malawi and parts of Africa. And faith-based organizations. So we try to do the work each and every day, and just I'm grateful to both of you.
I'm going to pass over.
Hi, I just want to say thank you all for a very wonderful, informative panel. Thank you, Donna, for creating another very powerful, meaningful format here. I wanted to say to Jean-Pierre that, God, your story, you told part of my story and part of my children's story, because I watched my mother be abusive to my own children. And and I also wanted to touch on a very important part of what I feel is also domestic violence. As it was pointed out, that it's not always the black eyes or the hickey on the lady's head. It could also be psychological abuse, verbal abuse, that is so traumatic in a relationship. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that maybe the man grew up in a family where he saw that happening in his, hurt people. So I really wanted to stress that it's not always physical abuse, it's also emotional and psychological abuse as well. And I thank you so much for this format. It was lovely today. Thanks.
Thank you. If I can ask Reverend Joseph, if you don't mind, we'll just close with a...
Okay.
One moment, he will speak. He'll say,
Yeah, I'm honored to just be here and stuff. And as we all talk about Domestic Violence Awareness Month too, I'm a survivor myself from gun violence too in Las Vegas. And even though 7 years later, which is a couple weeks ago, I was there and saw Vegas Strong 2. I'm also a survivor too of abuse. Not necessarily from my parents and stuff, so just basically by babysitter and stuff. And it took a while for just be out of it, because I know it did hit me like last year, because I wanted to forget all of it. But the fact that it just came into the mind, all I know is I just remember that I did repeatedly getting like punched like into the stomach too, into the head as well. And so, yeah, so I'm honored to just say it and to hear from your guys' perspective and the stories and everyone else too. So, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Well, I haven't said anything, but if I begin to speak now, I'll keep you here till tomorrow morning. I'm a minister from the Caribbean and been in Church in Ocean Park for the past, 12 years almost. And I have passed through the same thing that you all are passing through as well. When I was 7 years of age, I saw my father physically, violently abuse my mother, and it continued through high school and so on. And I remember my mother telling me that when I was 7 and I saw what happened, I said to her, "Don't worry, you don't worry, I'll take charge of this house." And that's exactly what I did. I took charge of the house from I was 7. Well, I'm going to go into it at another time. But I did take charge. Nothing could, nobody could touch my mother. And I got into trouble once because a fellow at school, in the school building, I don't know what I did to him, but he cursed me and he cursed my mother. And that set me off because he cursed my mother. And I got into a fight in the classroom. And I really beat him up in the schoolroom. And 2 weeks later, I didn't see him coming to school. And so I went to the teacher and I said, "Where is Balfour?" That was his name. "I haven't seen Balfour." And he said, "Well, he is ill. He was in psychiatric hospital." And so I thought that my beating him up put him into mental hospital. So that's a long story. But another time we meet, maybe I'll tell you about it. But I really thought I did put him there in truth. And all that psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors tell me, "No, he was ill before," and so on. "Don't blame yourself." I blamed myself for years. So I went into ministry of the church, and now I'm a chaplain in a hospital. So I'm able to, from your experiences and from my experiences, we can be helpful to other people. Mm-hmm. And because we've been in the valley, it's ourselves, you know. So anyhow, let me not go on. So thank you all very much, and maybe we can all stand and have a short grace. May peace and love, joy and resilience of spirit keep and sustain us and our loved ones, guide and protect us as we go forward. And may God's love and peace keep and sustain us as we go forward. We say thanks to all those who have contributed and who have helped, those who have been silent. We sense your presence and feel your touch as well, and go forward in peace. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. And as we get ready to kind of wrap up, Jean-Pierre, we can get us some more music, and we can. I was out of order, guys.
No worries. Sounds good. Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for everybody on the panel for the great information you guys shared. It's funny, sometimes I'm so used to what I've been through, I share my stories and I just share them now. And it's other people, like the gentleman from India, that make me realize, like, how significant the things I went through were. Like, other people saying basically shit, like, that's a lot. Makes me realize, yeah, I've been through a lot. I really am happy, though, that the gift I was given was to turn all of that into my creativity, into my art, to make people laugh, to inspire people, to entertain people.
I became constructive and not destructive, and I think that's important and valuable. And that's also my healing. That's my therapy. That's my meditation. My downtime is my creation. So this is how I find peace. This is how I made it through all I made it through. So we'll go ahead and start with Dreamin', show you a little other side of the coin, a little more positive music. This is me coming out the other side. It's called Dreamin'. You know, I dream a lot, and sometimes I feel like those dreams can't be, but I try to bring words to life. Yeah. I'm sitting here dreaming of better days, to a time where I'm feeling that life is great. Everywhere I go, a smile on my face. You can see it in the photos that I take. You can hear it in the music that I make. It is clear I've reached a different stage. In my book I've written another page. And in the story the world's already saved. We stopped putting our children inside of graves and got minorities out the cages. In this place the sun always rises, and you could bring life to the lifeless. You can give hope to the hopeless. And that's the whole reason that I wrote this. I'm just hoping you notice, 'cause this world is ferocious. So I'm dreaming if you see someone that's down, you would take the time to lift them up off the ground, instead of using knives to make your way to the crown. We lend our helping hands on this road we walk down. We try to understand our differences now and realize we have more in common with each other. We're all sisters and brothers and should care for one another. All of us are equals, no one above another. We see the earth as our mother and treat her like we love her. That's my dream of peace and comfort. Ooh, yes. The things that I'm dreaming, man, I wish could happen. Kinda like John Lennon's Imagine. All these words, I speak them with passion. Like I'm fighting off the demons with rapping. Turn the world from defeated and saddened to a world that is peaceful and laughing. But we need to see the things that we're lacking, plus escape from the cage that we're trapped in. Otherwise, our dreams remain dreams, and our full potential can never be seen. We'll continue working like machines, watching life pass us by on different side screens. Instead of creating the kind of lives that we want, we need to do more than just dream of this stuff. There's no easy road, man, it's gonna be tough, but I want you to know that it can be done. And our dreams are not that impossible. We just gotta overcome some obstacles. The biggest one being yourself. It is. So you should believe in yourself. You should. Do that and you probably will. Get to a place where you feel fulfilled and do more with life than just work and pay bills. And that is the place where the dreams become real. Wait, is this a dream? Is it all a dream? Or is it real? Yeah, it's up to you. It's up to me. It's up to you. It's up to me. It's up to ourselves. It's up to ourselves to make those dreams come true. So there you go, a little positivity. Thank you to Donna, Ayana, all the panelists, everybody who came out for this community. I'm glad to give back and be a part of this.
Thank everyone here in person, and thank everyone also out there in virtual world on Zoom. Thank you all for joining us. Everyone have a blessed, good day and a great week ahead. Thank you.
And also, the encouragement group is also on Zoom as well. So please, if you leave your information in the front, we can send you a link to the encouragement group. We meet once a month. Thank you very much. Much gratitude to each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.